Admiral's cabin, Imperial Japanese Navy carrier Soryu, Central Pacific. Chief Pilot, Lieutenant Commander Fushida Mutsuo, stood and waited. He watched as Vice Admiral Nagumo sat at a small writing table, studying the recently taken photographs of Pearl Harbor. Nagumo was old school, through and through, thought Mitsuo. Appointed to command Japan's carrier strike force just 8 months previously, he was totally unsuited to the task. He was a torpedo expert, not an aircraft man. He was also prone to nervous exhaustion and bouts of depression. Even small decisions seemed to cause him great stress. Lined up like ducks, said Nagumo, not looking up, his eyes fixed on the enlarged photograph of Battleship Row. It would have been a great victory. The whole of the US Pacific battle fleet sunk at its moorings in its own naval base. Mitsuo remained silent. Yes, and in shallow water. Most, if not all of them, would be salvaged and back in service within 2 or 3 years, he thought. He cleared his throat. Sir, we must proceed with our alternate mission of providing air support for the invasion of Wake. And what of the US carriers, Nagumo said, still gazing at the photo. Even now they could be out there, preparing a strike on us. Mitsuo gave a slight shake of the head. The Admiral is seeing ghosts now. Sir, we have search planes out on every point of the compass. There are no American carriers within 250 miles of us, you can be assured of that. They do not even know we are here. I hope you are correct, but on the off chance that you are not, only the strike aircraft on Hiryu will attack Wake. I want Soyuz aircrafts here to protect the fleet. Mitsuo was not happy. It was planned that the strike aircraft of both carriers should take part. As you command, sir. May I give the order for Hiryu to launch? Nagumo finally took his eyes away from the photo and looked at his chief pilot. Yes, see the order is sent immediately. Mitsuo bowed and hurriedly left the cabin. Nagumo watched him go, picked up the photo and said aloud, a great victory was in our grasp. He screwed the photograph into a ball and threw it across his cabin. Wake Island. Rear Admiral Takagi had been relieved to see the arrival of the carrier aircraft and marvelled at the skill of the pilots. They had systematically destroyed almost every American position with great accuracy. His landing force had met very little opposition as it waded ashore, and now most of the island was in Japanese hands. 1 or 2 pockets of Americans still offered resistance, but they would soon be killed or captured. Now his engineers could set about the task of building an airstrip and fortifications for Wake would become an unsinkable aircraft carrier. The United States troops defending central Philippines had never witnessed anything like this. They'd been called to man the defences at first light when the ships of the Japanese invasion force appeared off the coast. To the young soldiers in their trenches and foxholes, what had sounded like a whole lot of express trains rushing towards them was followed by explosions so powerful that whole areas of the ground were literally thrown into the air. Air, rocks, trees and dead bodies flew in all directions. The blast waves that instantly followed threw men to the ground and perforated eardrums. The express trains were in fact salvos of high explosive 14-inch shells fired from the battleship Haruna. Its 4 twin turrets spitting death with a monotonous regularity as 8 more express trains hurtled towards the now deaf, senseless and terrified men huddled in their trenches. Sergeant Walker tried to keep his terrified men in some sort of fighting order. He stood on the fighting step of the trench and loosed off a couple of shots at the Japanese on the beach before more flashes off the coast signalled the imminent arrival of more express trains. His 50 cal team had managed to right their toppled weapon, but did not get off a burst before throwing themselves face down at the bottom of the trench with hands covering their ears. Two 14-inch shells straddled the trench, sending tons of debris skyward, but it never landed on Sergeant Walker and his men. The kinetic energy of the two huge explosions literally moved the earth, like the covers of a heavy book being slammed shut. The two walls of the trench slammed together. Sergeant Walker and his men were both crushed to death and buried in one instant. The barrel of a 50 cal poked skywards from the dirt, the only marker to the men who had once existed there. Right, thanks for watching. That's almost the end of the Japanese turn. There's just the admin side of it to do now. And I thought I'd show that on camera. It won't be in story form, obviously. I'll just go to the other side of the table because I can't operate here with this tripod. Now, at the start of the Japanese turn, they had $20 to spend, and here on the flag, I've placed the bought a fighter for $10, 3 infantry regiments at $3 a piece, and the final dollar was spent on a pillbox. And in this game, use a British roundel to simulate a pillbox. They can be placed at the end of this turn. Well, now actually. Also, when the Japanese captured Wake on that aircraft and now returned to the carrier, when it captured Wake, they automatically get a free airbase. Normally you would have to purchase that and put it over here and bring it in the next turn. And you can only build something on a territory that you've held for a full turn. This is the only exception to that. The Japanese are allowed to build an airstrip immediately. Now that pillbox which I bought, that's also going to be placed here. It gives extra protection to the infantry in both land assault, naval bombardment and air attack. So that infantry is now in a pillbox. The other 3 infantry, well, they've got to go into Japan. They can't appear anywhere else, so I'll put them there for now, as is the aircraft. The plan for the aircraft is to fly first to, where is it? Can it get to Wake? 1, 2, 3, no it can't. But it can get to Saipan, which is an airfield, and from Saipan it can get to Wake. So that's the plan for that aircraft. Now in the non-combat modes, in the other one, this fleet, the Yamato battle group, sailed from Tokyo Bay, and it's now in this one second sector just north of the Marianas. The Marianas fell because all the Japanese had to do was land a soldier on Guam, which was undefended. So the Japanese have now taken 2 properties. That's $1, $2, so a total of $3. So next time they'll have $23 to spend, and so it goes on. In the non-combat modes, well, this transport, it landed troops here, but it never changed its sea zone. So what I'm going to do is going to start scurrying back to Japan. The one at Wake Island did move, so it can't move yet. This one was in the same sea zone, although it transferred troops from Tinian to Guam. So I'm going to let it move 1, 2 as well. It's scooted back to Japan. Transports are vital in this game because you've got so much real estate to cover. You need your transports. And that, I think, is the end of the Japanese turn. Don't think they will want to do anything else at this moment in time. The Harunas staying there. The Americans, there's 2 units here, but in the mountainous area, so they're going to be more difficult to dislodge. There are 3 Japanese units there, but there are 3 more and some artillery on the Yamato Strike Force, which will enter this zone and land the troops in the Philippines the next term. And I think that's it. So, okay. Right, come back around there. I can only just say I'm thoroughly enjoying this game. I'm enjoying writing the scripts as well. Next up, of course, it will be the Americans' first turn. They've got $50 to spend, so we'll see what they purchase. I mean, now they know they're at war. The attack on Pearl Harbor didn't happen, but obviously the Philippines have partly fallen and probably will fall either next turn or the turn after. They'll probably seek to strengthen the troops in Australia, because if there's a port symbol, you know, these anchors, and there is here, here and here, you can automatically just place another infantry on each of those locations without having to transport them across the sea, because technically these are Anzac troops anyway. So they would be coming from Australia. So if you've got a port symbol, you can, just a single infantry per turn, if you purchase one, you can place them on each of them. The Americans will probably do that. I'm not sure what they'll do with the rest of the money. They're going to have to purchase some US Marines, and I'm going to use a different nation's figures for the US Marines to separate them from the green GIs, you know, the green coloured GI Joes. So I'll use a different nation's troops to represent the US Marines when they do amphibious invasions. Okay, I'll stop there. I'll marry this to the previous part, and hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.